video, I will be talking about unscored items. So if you are going to take your exam, that is CELPIP General or CELPIP LS, you should know that you will be having unscored items in your real exam. Now this is something different and a kind of challenging for the students who are taking it because they are going to take something extra. Okay, so I will be talking about why it is there in real exam and what to expect on test day. So if I'll talk about unscored items, first I'll talk about listening. So in listening, you know that you will be having 6 components in real exam. So in these 6 components, you are having like practice task, that is only one question that you will be having, and this one question is unscored. You are not going to get scores for it, and this one question would always remain same. It never changes. Okay, and if you want to see what this first question is, you can visit CELPIP official site and there will be a free test available. So when you take this test, you can see the question over there. The same question will be there in your real exam, and students get confused with this question and unscored item. So that is not an unscored item exactly, right? Now in real exam, what is happening, you will be getting part 1, that is problem solving, 8 questions. Part 2, daily life conversation, 5 questions. Part 3, information, 6 questions. Part 4, listening a news item, and you will be having 5 questions there. Part 5, discussion video, 8 questions. Part 6, viewpoint, 6 questions. Since you have been practicing continuously for the same like 8, 5, 6, 5, 8, 6, and you will be having these sections once only during your preparation or during your practice test taking. Now in real exam, what happens is these unscored items are a part of your listening and reading test. Now in unscored item, what happens is you will be having one entire part of listening repeated. So generally it is one only. You might be expecting or you might be getting like more than one part getting repeated. Let's say you started with this practice test. This first question is over, right? Now you are doing your part 1, 8 questions done. Now you are preparing yourself for part 2. You have your part 2, you finished it. Now you are preparing for part 3. Okay, now part 3 would be there and I will be listening it. But all of a sudden you say that there is another part 2. Okay, so this is something unexpected happening with you because you have just finished with your part 2 and now you are expecting part 3 to come. But what is happening? You are having another part 2. So you will get confused. Why this is another part 2? Okay, so there might be several questions have in your mind at the same time, but nobody is there to answer your questions during examination hours. So you just have to fight with these thoughts and then continue with your test. So make sure you have these things in your mind that you will be having unscored item. If you have this part 2, so you will be having another audio, another 5 questions and extra timing. So one entire part is repeated. So if you have one entire part is repeated means another audio, extra timings, extra questions that you have to take. Now let's see, this part 2 is repeated. You have 2 part 2. Now out of these part 2, one is scored item, another one is unscored item. You do not know which one is scored or unscored. So you just have to do whatever comes in front of you. You have to do it with full heart and soul, with your full dedication, with your full efforts. Okay, so some students have a myth that in whatever section you are scoring more, that would be scored, or might be in whatever the section we are scoring less is the scored item. So no, that is not happening. So what is an unscored item and why it is there in your exam? When the CELPIP examination bodies, whenever they create a new test paper, whenever they develop a new test paper, they give this new part in the real exam scenario to the students to check the quality of their test paper and again to see what is the difficulty level of the test. So they are doing it for their test development purposes, so that nobody is feeling that they are being cheated something or the difficulty level is not same or anything. So just for their internal purposes, just for their test development purposes, whenever they produce or whenever they create a new part of the test, they always give in the real exam scenario. Okay, so it can be any part. It can be part 3 repeated, it can be part 4 repeated, part 5, part 6. It can be any of the part repeated. In fact, a few students, as I mentioned, right, they got 2 parts extra in listening. So whatever extra you are having, make sure you do it with your best and be mentally prepared that you might be having 1 part extra, 2 part extra, but you have to do it. The same happens within case of reading. In reading component sections, if we talk about, you have like first practice task. So one practice task, that is again a non-scored item, unscored item, and student get confused that this is the unscored item is this one. No, this is not an unscored item. Unscored item is you are doing your part 1, done, part 2 done, part 3 done, part 4 done. Now you will think, okay, finally reading is over, but then what? You have another part 4, and that is a biggest disappointment and discouragement that you might face at the time, because anyhow, you know, part 4 is a difficult one, right? So anyhow you completed it and now you are gaining your energy for writing, but when you see another part 4, that can be a challenging, but you have to mentally prepare for it. You will be having part extra. So by the time you don't see writing on your screen, it means you can have any of the part extra. And same thing here. If you have part 4 repeated, you will be having a new passage, new 10 questions, new timers, everything would be new. And whatever is there in front of you, you just have to take it. Okay, so I hope this is clear. You can have any of this listening and reading, any of the item repeated, and that would be unscored one. Whatever is scored and unscored, you cannot differentiate. There is no clue, or there is nothing like you can know beforehand which is unscored. Even if when you get your test result in your hand, then also you can only like, you know, recall how many questions I have made wrong or correct, then you can recall. Otherwise nobody is going to tell you which one is a scored item or unscored item. You just have to do whatever is there in front of you. Okay, so I hope this is clear about unscored items. So instead of getting panic or instead of getting confused, just go with the flow. Do with your best whatever comes your way during the examination. Okay, so keep learning with me. All the best.